This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenro radio playlist. zenroclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pointy Bakery. If you're located in the Pointy area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pointy Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Okay, so before I jump into all the other stuff, I just want to point out that Naruto is probably the most intricate anime I have ever seen. What I mean by this is, so your brother already caught up to me. He's on he actually beat me. He's on episode 302. I'm on 299 right now. So I was just texting them. I'm like, this is so crazy how, like, either the writers are really good at their job or the writers planned way far in advance. So something that happened 100 episodes ago, it was so random. So basically, spoiler alert, a crow goes into Naruto's throat and he swallows a crow, and you're like, that's so random. It was during like a genjutsu thing. So you think that like genjutsu is like a mind trick. So you think that he's just doing it out of like torture or something like that. You're just like, oh, why is he actually doing this like crow swallowing thing, right? And then 100 episodes later, Itachi, who did the crow thing, is going to attack Naruto, but him using this specific attack triggered the crow to come out, and then it came out of Naruto's mouth, and then it released Itachi from his like bind. So he put it as like a safeguard in case like he was going to attack Naruto, that this like would come out as like a security mechanism. And I'm like, okay, either you thought 100 episodes ahead, or like you just put random stuff in and you're like, the future writers will figure it out. Like, I don't know, what do you think? Like, how do you write such an intricate anime? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it depends if it's coming from
or just story,
material.
or just story. No, not even anime, just story. Like, how do you write? No, well, yeah, they make the manga first and then they turn that into an anime. So, like, they already knew the storyline, but still, the writers had to write that in and it's
manga.
like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, what other shows have been so intricate? I feel like anime is the most intricate storylines you can get. You know, they're always pulling stuff in and like they fuse stuff together, because the thing is, you can refilm a scene or like reorient a scene, show it from a different angle without like having to refilm it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like when you do it in movies now, like they're trying to do it now in movies, like they'll, like The Flash. I'll get into that in a second, but The Flash, they like have different scenes from older movies, right? Yeah. And then you're like, okay, they can do this now because they're just cutting the old movie and putting it back into this movie, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they just take the footage and just like re-put it back. But like in animes, they can like show you a different angle that you've never seen before, like someone else's different perspective, and it doesn't throw you off because it's just a drawing. Yeah. So as long as the drawing's the same, you're like, okay. You know what I'm saying? So like, do you think that they had this all mapped out, or do you think that they're doing it on the fly? I don't know.
I don't know. And it's hard. It would be hard to tell unless you would actually talk to the guy that did the writing, right? So it's like,
True.
We added these elements in, but we didn't know how we were going to use it later.
That's what I mean. So I'm like, you think that just like somebody will figure this part out? Because it was so random. When you saw it in the beginning, you're like, oh, maybe it's just a torture scene. Like, why is he swallowing an entire crow? I don't understand.
Or like sometimes it's like you have an idea, but like you're not like touching that story for a little while. Like you haven't like.
You're like, this will come back. You're like, okay, I'll plant this now.
Yeah, like you have something in mind, but you haven't fleshed out the story yet, right? So you're.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because you know, like when different writers they come in, and then you're like, oh, the storyline just got garbage.
Yeah.
Like a good one. Like there's like a lot of shows too that like when you watch them, you're amazed by the intricacy, but then they switch the writer and you're like, oh, it's not good anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But we don't really think about writers in that capacity. You know, we don't really give them the credit that they're due.
Yep.
Right?
That's
Then maybe that's why they always go on strikes. There's always like the Writers Guild strike or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. I just thought that was
Yeah, I
fascinating.
think they're still on strike right now, right? The ones in Hollywood.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah,
Perfect
so
time to
it
bring this up.
affects, yeah, it affects a lot of. I believe they've been on strike for a while. It a lot of production has stopped.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
don't know if it's
Dang.
like if it's been resolved yet. I haven't heard anything about that yet. So, um, we'll have like it affects a lot of shows. If their show is in the middle of a season filming and then the strike happened, it's affecting the
Yeah,
rest of
yeah,
that.
that
Like,
makes
but if
sense.
you haven't started the show yet, so nothing's been written yet, so it's like you're
Mm.
pausing. A lot of those ones are being paused till this is resolved.
I swear this has happened so many times in the past. Do you remember that? Like, so many strikes.
There hasn't been so many strikes. One of the ones that were the biggest ones that I remember because I was watching Heroes, and Heroes, that show got affected because of the
Yes.
strike.
That's the first time, yeah, because you brought that up. But then wasn't there like a Daniel Craig movie that it was a Casino? It was the second Daniel Craig movie, and then they blamed that movie being so bad on the writer's strike because they just had to fill in whatever that they could
Right.
for
I
that
don't know how
storyline.
often it has happened since then, but that was one of the bigger ones, Heroes. But uh, this is a new one because I don't think they've had a deal since like all this Netflix, Apple TV, like all these guys doing these
Okay,
shows.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I don't think they get as much credit in these contracts or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. You know, there's something about streaming that's like it makes things like infinite and they can always come back. What I mean by that is I was watching this Max Holloway interview and then he's talking about anime. And then the interviewer's like, "Oh, what are you watching right now?" He's like, "I'm watching Shippuden." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm watching Shippuden."
Mm-hmm.
And then I know like all these other people are watching Shippuden. And I'm like, how come we're all watching Shippuden at the same time? Even Uniqlo came out with Naruto clothing line.
Right.
You know, it's like becoming huge. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, you could just watch it on Hulu." And I was like, "Oh, it's the streaming services." Like I only watched it again because Naruto was on Netflix. I was like, "Okay,
Right.
I can just like I binge it here."
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And I think that if you just keep bringing these things back, you can like have an infinite amount of like replayability, or you never know when something will hit. Like it might not hit now, but it'll hit later.
Yeah.
You know, you just put it out and then like maybe it'll become a phenomenon
Mm-hmm.
in like a few years. You know, like Squid Games. Not that that wasn't a phenomenon when it came out, but he was like pitching that story for so many years, right?
Right.
Like it was like 10 years or something, and then he finally made it and like he's all happy. Yeah. Just interesting because like when Max Holloway said Shippuden, and then I thought like, well, we're watching it too, and then him explaining how it's on their version. Hulu's like HBO, right? Something like that.
No, it's an affiliate with Disney, I believe. But yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so like it's on Netflix, so it's like this really makes it more accessible. And then I noticed that the things that it was referencing on Netflix were other animes, and I was like, I didn't even know like anime had a whole section on Netflix. I thought Netflix was just like Western shows. You know what I mean?
They've been doing their own anime too, I believe, right? So
right,
they're
introducing
building
this,
up
but
the catalog.
but you never think it's right, but you never think it's gonna be good because like I looked at the Netflix options and I was like, oh, like One Piece is on here. I never expected One Piece to be on Netflix, you know, and like all these other animes. Fun fact: I tried to watch One Piece because everyone was talking about it. So me and my sister tried to put it on. I was like, I can't do it. It's so kiddie. Like I feel like you had to have grown up with One Piece. Like the thing about Naruto too is like it's super kiddie, but you can still stomach it because they have adult characters,
right?
You know. Yeah. A quick pause question: is my internet connection messed up? Like you're kind of blurry for me. No, it's fine.
No, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so like I think that's it's funny when you go back and watch like old animes and you try and see if it holds up, but it just doesn't. Were you the one who told me about Death Note and you said it was like 26 episodes or something, or 32?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, was that on the podcast or like after when
I
we
think after the
finished?
podcast.
Okay. Yeah, so I want to watch that one too because a lot of people coveted Death Note
So
along with Naruto.
I don't watch a lot of anime. So the ones I've seen were like, of course, Bleach, but that was like
Hmm.
accidental. And then, um, and then there's been a few others, but they're very indie oriented, right? Like Tokyo
Yeah.
Earthquake 8.0 or something like that. Tokyo 8.0. And then, and then when I watched Death, what was it called? Death Note.
Death Note.
Yeah.
Death Note, yeah.
I thought that was really good. Yeah,
Really?
I really liked
Okay.
it.
And the fact that it's all contained within like
Mm-hmm.
this is
I think
what's really
that's why I
cool.
liked
Like
it.
during
Yeah, because it was
yeah.
a short amount. I can just
Yeah.
watch it and we'll be done in like a few days, right?
No, for sure. And then you know that the story's gonna be quality because it's not like they're trying to stretch things out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was my fear about Naruto when I was in high school and I was watching each episode weekly. It was kind of like is this gonna turn bad?
Right.
And then I wasted all my time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But where we are in Naruto, because everything's out now, right? You could watch the full Naruto series, and people are still coveting it. So it's like, okay, it is one of those animes that holds the test of time. Let's go watch it. You know. But if you heard that it turned bad, I'd probably like stop after a while.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, just super interesting. Like different cultures with their different like different things that they output, you know, for entertainment. So an example is like we talked about anime, right? But Koreans have like a very intricate storytelling too. Like remember Parasite
Mm-hmm.
and Old Boy.
Yeah.
Like they're we always like we don't think about other parts of the world having such good quality like consumable content. You know, we always think about like Western media,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess maybe it's the internet now that's making things more global that
Yeah,
you can see different things from.
the access is much more easier to find the things out there in the world.
Yeah. Do you remember The Man from Nowhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, like easily one of my favorite movies, but it's a Korean movie,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then like there's like The Devil. We just went on this like Korean download binge and we were just like watch. Or what was that other one that Train to Busan?
Train to Busan. There, I think there was
There was the one before that.
one before that. I don't remember, but I seen Pandora. There was some other one where it was a firefighter who died.
But no, it was like a series. Do you remember that? Like it was like
Series.
zombies. Yeah, it was like Train to Busan was one of them, and then they came out with another one.
Oh right, I think we saw that in theaters.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you see that one then?
Yeah, we saw it. We saw it in theaters. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot. But that was the second movie for that.
Yeah. We had to watch Train to Busan before that one because you said this is like a prequel. It's like the second one.
Second one, yeah.
So to understand what had happened, we had to watch like Train to Busan. But yeah, like so even that it's pretty wild to think like this was super intricate. And what is it? Parasite won the Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need to look at other parts of the globe for their like quality content too, like RRR.
Yep.
You're saying like that one's really good.
That's kind of why I like the Oscars in the sense that whenever they put up international movies like on their list, it's like
oh really?
Yeah, that's kind of why I looked for those too to watch those.
Oh, okay.
There's a few movies
in
Japan I wanted to see that still on the list.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh really?
Well,
but how do you get it?
No, they come on eventually on Crave or Netflix or something like that. They do come.
Oh really? Okay.
Because it became popular through Oscars, so they're gonna push it on the other platforms.
Okay. So it's not like Gone Are the Days where you had to like find the torrent for it and like hope that you can get it. Yeah, fascinating. We're quickly becoming such a weird, accessible world. You know, we can all dabble in each other's, cultural aspects. Because I remember, like as a kid, if you were like, it was so fringe to like anime. You know, as a kid.
Yeah.
But then, right, it was like, oh, you like anime? It's so random, you know? Or like even like Asian stuff. It's just so random.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, speaking of which, let's jump to the Flash because I finally saw it. So now we can actually talk about it. What did you think? Yeah, I know what you thought about the Flash because we can listen to last week's podcast. But what, like, I okay. The graphics were bad. The graphics were bad.
It's very
Like
notable.
right away,
Yeah.
right away. You see Batman, and you're like, this is kind of weird. But also, I was like, it's also a good movie. So I don't know why it was like good but bad. You know, it was like it was trying hard to hit all of the things to make it an epic movie, but it like didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was good. I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is actually really intricate. I get it. Like Batman came back. It's very epic. George Clooney, spoiler alert, is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like they brought back like Nicolas Cage as Superman, which is like a random thing because he did like a test or something.
Yeah.
They're like playing on all these like different
Yeah.
aspects.
Even Christopher Reeve's
you know,
Superman version. Yeah.
but it was like it was good for that, but also at the same time it was like I don't know if I think it was a good movie. But is it so like was this all right, so let's go story and then graphics because I think that's what really boils down to it. Like the graphics, like the setup, the execution made me be like, oh, this is not that great. But if you think about the story itself, you're like, oh, it's actually a pretty good story.
Yeah, as a story it wasn't bad. Like, but there were like, if you're just focusing on Flash, right? The other characters that were coming in, like they were maybe it's just like hints of it. It's like we don't really know anything about Supergirl. She just went off somewhere and then randomly wanted to come back. Okay, all right. So you want to see?
Yeah.
No real explanation on that, but that's fine. It's like there are
Yeah,
parts
that's
of
true.
it where it's like, okay, whatever. That I guess I know what you're trying to do is progress the story. That's fine. Like, but like as I think if you just look at Flash's story, what happened to him, I think that was pretty decent.
But like, right. But you're thinking about how we can expand the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can this become more of a series? But you said that
but
they're kind of just doing away.
Yeah, and especially how bad it did. There's really no more of this. Like,
but right. But that was what was tripping me out because I was like, why did it do so bad? Because the story was good, but
I wonder.
The graphics were so bad.
I think that's one of the reasons, probably, but also it depends on. I don't know. Do people really know DC enough to, or is just Marvel too big? I don't know.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's like they're being swallowed up by the Marvel side because that's more of a brand recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have Spider-Man, we have like the whole Marvel universe thing going on, but like nobody really cares about DC.
Yeah, I don't think people don't really know much about the Flash.
Right. Okay, and he also got that hit in the news.
Yeah, hit in the news, and there wasn't much of a promotion or like ads. I didn't see too much that was going on when it did release.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Like they didn't like hype it up. But so that's the thing. It's like watching it, I'm like, it wasn't that bad. Like I was expecting to be like really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe my expectation is what killed, or my expectation is what boosted it up.
Maybe, yeah.
I was expecting to be a lot worse than it was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of sad that it's over now because you saw all those cool characters. Like, what would you have done if you continued and you had like all these different Batmans and like,
right?
I don't know. Maybe in the future somebody will pick it up. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, it's all in James
Did you see that
control? Right. Next.
Wait, which one? The
whole DC.
The Justice League. Oh, right. Yeah. I saw just before we came on. They're talking about revamping Aquaman. See, like, okay. It wasn't an Aquaman.
But we're
that's
still getting
the thing.
Another Aquaman movie, aren't we not?
Yeah. That's what revamp means. Like, I don't mean like they're starting again. When I read the post, the Asian director was saying how like they're like taking the parts that we all loved about Aquaman and then making it into the next movie. Okay. But I'm like, Aquaman wasn't good. So like,
yeah.
So that's the thing. If this movie was like Aquaman, I'd be like, oh yeah, don't continue it. But Aquaman is doing so well even though the movie was trash? I'm just so confused because it wasn't to the level of Aquaman. You know what I mean? Like the Flash it was not bad. Like Aquaman or the Flash? Easy pick, right? Oh, really?
I don't know.
You're considering Aquaman?
No. I didn't like both, bro.
Right. But if you had to pick one, you know, because what I'm saying is like Aquaman got 1 and 2, and they're talking about a third. I think it's just because of Jason Momoa's star power.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah,
right.
The one that
I don't think the story's actually good. That's what I mean. So like, if I had to pick, I'd pick the Flash all day. It was way better, right? But why is Aquaman getting so much hype? Because of Jason Momoa. And it's like, is this what we're basing our like art on now?
Well, any of these big blockbuster ones, yeah. If you're spending this kind of money, you want return, right?
Yeah, but it's just so. I don't know. I guess this falls under the whole creativity.
If the return is coming, that means that art is doing good. You know what I mean?
Right. And this goes back to like the video game chats that we've had, and like even that dude's comment when he was like, "Oh, it became like more of a business." That's why you're saying that everything's just like regurgitation now, because it is all just regurgitation. Yeah. It like everything's just like let's follow the formula.
Yeah, if you listen, I think was it Martin Scorsese where it's like, you know, these movies, they're not that good, but they've taken over the industry, right? So right. We're not getting good movies anymore.
True. Fair. Yeah, I forgot he said that. He was like a big like opponent of these like dumb movies.
Yeah. But if the dumb movies are making the billions of dollars, well.
Yeah, and salt. Yeah. I don't know, because like there was a time when art used to push the boundaries of the way we thought. You know, it would.
Sure.
That was the point of art. It would like make you consider ideas you wouldn't have considered before. See, okay, I'm gonna go back to Naruto.
But I think that happens because it wasn't. It's not like you can spend $300 million and get $1 billion, right? That wasn't happening. So you could spend different kinds of dollars.
Oh, yep. I see what you're saying.
Right? So even like in the comic book industry, that's kind of it was huge once. Then it declined, right? The interest was declining, so they were doing different kinds of stories to get people interested into it, right? So it's kind of if the business goes down, then you have to look at different ways to make money now, right? Different ways of storytelling that could attract people.
Yep.
So that's the only thing you can really hope for, I guess. If I don't know if are we at the end of the superhero binge that we need now? Are we not?
Oh, interesting.
Anymore? Is it declining?
Yeah.
So then maybe we can look at different avenues.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's like we're plateauing.
Are we? Yeah.
Now
that's the question, right? I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a fair point actually. Because when like Tony Stark, remember when Iron Man first came out, we're like, oh, this is pretty good. And then it was like, it's almost like, it's like bands in the beginning when you listen to their EPs, there's so much passion because they're like, oh, trying to make it, right? They're really like doing their best to climb the mountain. Yeah. And then you get to the top of the mountain, you're like, I don't need to try anymore. So it's like you plateaued, you know? Yeah. So just to go back to Naruto in terms of pushing boundaries of thought because of art, in like movies, there's always a bad guy, and then his point is obvious,
right?
Like think about like Thanos. He's one of the bad guys where you're like, he has a point, you know. But when you watch like stereotypical like James Bond one, he's like, I want to rule the world, I want to kill everyone, right? You're like, oh, he's evil. Like, we're just taking down the evil guy. Yeah. So, right? So we hit this point in Naruto now where the main bad guy, so every bad guy leading up to it just wants world peace. That's the mind blow of the whole series. But it's how do you achieve world peace? Right. So when you listen to their perspective on it, so, all right, the first bad guy, the main bad guy that Naruto finally takes down is like, he doesn't believe world peace is possible. He's been trying, but then so much death, and he's like, oh no, it's impossible to achieve. Right. but Naruto like believes it's possible. So then Naruto's like belief is what inspires the bad guy to think that maybe it is possible, and I was wrong. And then he like lets Naruto beat him. So then the second bad guy, who turns out to be the real bad guy of the series, you're like, oh, he's going to be straight evil. Turns out his main mission is world peace. Again, but his main mission for world peace is putting everyone under a spell in order to like become one hive mind.
Right. Yeah.
So then you get peace. And we've talked about this. Remember, it's like in order for there to be world peace, everyone has to be thinking the same. But the problem with peace is that everyone has their own thoughts on what peace should look like. That's why we're all fighting, you know? And watching that, it's like you actually start to question, what does world peace mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like these are like really thorough, deep concepts that you're putting into an anime that people look at and they think it's for kids, but because it's a drawing, you know. But you're like, no, this is like, and this is where I think anime can push the boundaries of like these kinds of things, because it's like you don't take it seriously. Like people who are really paying attention don't really. No, people who are really paying attention see it, but the ones who are seeing it superficially are like, oh, it's a cartoon.
Level. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But
and I think that's maybe that's how they can get away with it.
Yeah, that's kind of like a lot of the. I feel like that's the view of anime. Well, people who know about anime, it's like the themes that they read or talk about are very adult themes.
Yeah. Very adult. Yeah.
So
but you just don't.
It's not really.
Or you know, it's another good example. Disney. Like anime is also on the Disney level, where like you'll watch a Disney movie and you're like, oh, it's a Wall-E, right? I haven't fully seen it because I got bored. And maybe that's what most people do. They just see it as like a cartoon. They're just like, oh yeah, it's just a cartoon about like space people. But it's actually about how we're living our lives and how we're heading towards a detriment if we over rely on technology. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like, you just see it as a robot. You're like, oh, it's a story about a robot that's kind of like picking up trash, blah, blah, blah. Right? That's what they see. Or Zootopia was about racism.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, oh, these are some deep themes about racism.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
You're like, oh, it's animals, so we can get away with it. Maybe that's the frontier. Maybe it's like not physical human beings. Because all right, here, think about this one. You can attach an ideology to an actor, right? You see an actor, they play a certain role, and then you're like, oh, they must think this way.
Right.
Yeah. And that ruins their career. But you can attach an ideology to an animated character and nobody will care. Because that animated character is not coming back for another role.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that's the trick. You know, why we can get away with like deeper themes in cartoons or like anime, as opposed to like human actors.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there's no like.
Right.
Yeah, people get typecasted and things like that, right? So.
Right. Like think about Brokeback with Jake Gyllenhaal. So he must be a DEI supporter, right? Because he made that movie, right? But if it turned out he was a super racist, then you're like, why'd you make that movie? We've attached that. Like if Jake Gyllenhaal was homophobic, then we're like, why'd you make that movie? Yeah. You attach an ideology to that actor. Right? Whereas in animations, you don't do it. So you can play around as much as you want with like really deep themes. You're like, oh, that movie didn't do so well. But our studio is detached from, we just funded it, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the trick. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Right? That's a good way to get around it. Like you can't ruin your career as a freaking false character. Sure. You're not a real character.
Yeah.
Even if you lend your voice to it, it doesn't necessarily mean that, because people might not associate your voice with you as a person.
Yeah, I don't think people know who the voices are. Like
that's what I'm saying, right?
Like, only diehards would, but not.
Yeah. Like who knew Brendan? What's his name? The dude who played the raccoon in Guardians.
Oh,
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed Bradley Cooper played the raccoon. You can't hear it in his voice.
Or even the Groot.
Right? The Groot, yeah, Vin Diesel, what? You know? So that's the trick, right? Zootopia. Who was the actors in Zootopia? Because that was all about racism, straight up. It was like a very like telling movie about racism, but I don't know any of the actors. I just know the main character was a fox,
Uh,
right?
sure. Was
He's
it
a fox.
yeah, the two main characters, I guess, right? But,
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. So it's
yeah,
like you can get away with it because I don't know who the actor was.
yeah.
We found the loophole, bro. That's what it is. Okay, anything else about movies and stuff before I jump into tech?
No, no, everything's cool.
All right, cool. Okay, so I right after this podcast, I gotta go to Telus, so I'm a little time strapped, but it's fine. I'm looking at the time. I have to. I'm gonna switch. What time are we at? By the way.
30 minutes.
Oh, perfect. All right, perfect because I got more. So okay, the iPhone. I'm gonna jump to the 14 Pro Max, and okay, so this was all sprung about because all right, you were like, it's too big, because I was like, oh, should I get the 14 Pro or 14 Pro Max? And you're like, oh, it's too big, and I thought the exact same thing too.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got the 11 in the Philippines when I broke my phone, my original one, and then when I came back, I got the new phone, 11 Pro, because of the Apple Care. Shout out Apple Care. And going to it, I was like, why do I have a baby phone?
Mm-hmm.
Like psychologically, I went from like, oh, a big phone, like a big piece of tech, like a real piece of tech, to like, why do I have a child's toy? And I thought it was just me, right? And then I gave Tara my 11, and then she grabbed my phone and she's like, why do you have such a small phone? I'm like, yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, it's like weird psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was watching all these pro videos between like 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, they said that they all went max because they tried both and their brain couldn't go back to the small phone. So it's a thing. It's like a weird psychological thing where they said at first it's like, oh, it's big. And then you're like, oh, this is like odd. But then after a couple days, your brain starts like habituating to it. And then when they went back to the smaller one, they couldn't get over the fact that it was like a toy.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But isn't that weird though? Like it's like we all experienced it, and then not until I saw that video, and then they said it too. I'm like, okay, so it's like a psychological thing. So you're right. It is big, but once you get used to it, like you start craving the space. Like I was watching when I had the 11, I was watching Naruto, and it was like, okay, this is pretty big. Like I can see what's going on. But then with my 11 Pro, I was like, oh, it's so tiny. Like I have to like look more accurately at it, you know?
Okay.
And then it made me think, do we really want tech to get smaller? Or is there a point where it's like, you know, it's like this weird
Apple
balance.
Tried that. Apple tried because it was a 12 mini, remember?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But
and what happened? Nobody bought it, eh?
I don't think the amount of people that bought it wasn't as high, I don't think. So, like...
Isn't that weird, though?
When you go to 13, there's only... It just went back to the normal 13 and 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, right? It didn't have
right. So what's that weird psychological? They noticed it too. Apple noticed like, oh, we don't want tech to be that small, you know. And I don't know. That's kind of weird. Like there's something there that it's like, what do we want our tech to do? Because we would innately say, yeah, we want smaller tech. I want it to be like more lightweight, et cetera, et cetera. We say we want that, but then like when you feel it, you're like, no, I actually want this bigger piece of device.
Yeah. I think for me it was like, because I have an iPad, that was the necessary reason why I have to have a bigger phone. Where like the
right.
Because I was buying the bigger size iPad, right? So
right.
The phone was just the normal, just something to move.
It's I'm just gonna call on it. Yeah, true. I don't have an iPad, and I watch videos on my phone, so I'm like, oh, I need something bigger now.
Yeah,
like I'm noticing it.
That's true. Yeah, I don't watch videos on the phone because it's too small. I watch on the iPad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's fascinating. I wonder how the introduction of like the Vision Pro is going to break this. Because then you could scale it up to any size you want. Like it's all personal preference of that. You know what I mean? It's like, you want big screen? Cool. You want small screens? Cool. Like it's up to you.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Vision Pro is a long game, but I don't think it's going to take
for sure.
But yeah.
I just think that it's weird that, we keep coveting smaller and smaller tech, but it's like, oh, we actually don't.
I don't know.
Really want it.
I don't know if we do we?
No, they're always like, this phone is 10% lighter.
No, lighter,
we don't.
But we're not talking about the screen size. We're talking about lightweight.
But okay, so I wonder too. So okay, because my phone, my 11 Pro is also lighter than the 11, and it feels like that's why I'm like it feels like a toy. Like what am I holding right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so not just the size, but like the weight too. It's like I have like a baby phone.
Right. Okay.
But then when you have the 11, it's
I
like it's
guess you're
heavier. It's
you're
like more
comparing
in
it
your
that
hand. You're
way.
like, oh
If you're
yeah,
comparing it that way, because I know we went. I don't know what I had before this, but whatever I had before this was not as heavy.
right, yeah, okay.
So I do like a weight to it.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the size and the weight is like the 11 was like, oh, this is a phone.
Yeah, it feels solid. It
Subs-
feels.
yeah,
Yeah.
like substantial. It's like weird. Like, or for example, another great example of like feeling solid. So like carbon fiber. Oh no, titanium. Titanium is really really strong, but it's also super lightweight, right? Or you can get like steel, which is heavy but not as durable as titanium.
Mm-hmm.
But when you, I'm bringing this up because like jewelry, like rings, I went through like multiple iterations of rings, and with those, it's like you can feel like it's like this doesn't feel real. It's like it feels cheap. Titanium feels like, we do want like a weight and a substance to things,
Yeah.
because if it's too light, it's like, oh, this is like, it's like crappier. But no, it's actually more durable.
Yeah, it's a psychological thing. Yeah.
Right? Is weird. Like we do want some sort of like substantial weight to it. Imagine if those like you're charging $3,000, but they're so lightweight. You're like, I could break this thing, even though you couldn't. Like I couldn't break titanium. That's like so strong.
But it feels like
right?
Yeah. It's.
But it feels like I could break it. You know,
Yeah.
weird psychology. You know, even though we say we want like, lighter, faster, it's like not really. Like carbon fiber, like video games when you like make your cars faster for Need for Speed, and you could select carbon fiber.
Yeah.
So I thought carbon fiber was some sort of metal, and then I touched carbon fiber in real life. I'm like, oh, this is like plastic, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I could break this. It's like, no, you can't break you won't break it. But psychologically, I'm gonna break this thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends where
Weird.
you use the certain technology, right? Just bringing back the I don't think we talked about it, but that submarine thing that people died.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, you didn't even talk about that. Yeah, we didn't. I was talking to your brother about that.
But that was that's
Carbon
based
fiber.
on it was based on carbon fiber, where it's not good for external pressure, like for in water pressures, right? For deep water.
Oh, interesting.
That's why they don't make submarines with carbon fiber. They make submarines with like titanium or steel, right?
Yeah.
But planes are
That's
better with
fascinating.
carbon fiber than with, because titanium or steel is too heavy. But planes would be better for carbon fiber.
Okay, you know what's wild about that? That it takes a huge tragedy for us to fix things or learn about things. So with the submarine thing, it reminds me of we're definitely gonna get movies about it, but it reminds me of Titanic, because they didn't know that salt water and I don't know whatever the material was, it turns to glass because of like the erosion, and that's why when it hit the iceberg, it shattered. Like they thought like this ship is so strong it can run through an iceberg, it's totally fine, but because of the salt water affecting the steel or whatever it was made with.
Oh, I see.
That's why it went down.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like a boat shouldn't have a problem with ice, right? But it was because it had been weakened by the salt water that when it hit the iceberg, it was like shattering glass.
Or I think
Yeah,
it wasn't. I don't think it was supposed to like hit icebergs, right? You could still use it in water, but just don't go to icebergs.
But they were like, oh, it should be okay because it's like it's still a strong boat. Like we're talking steel here, right?
Okay, right.
Yeah. So that was actually the main like scientific reason why it broke, because they had to figure it out, right? But when you said the carbon fiber thing, like who tested that beforehand? Because if somebody had tested that, they tested that.
No, but the thing is, they've been like even James Cameron, when they were saying that this is not going to pass. They have guidelines to follow, right? There are like rules or regulations, but they didn't follow the rules or regulations. They didn't go get those things approvals or anything like that. Even like some people question, they were doing things that were not by the rules as or regulations.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they were trying to
Okay,
make
so I didn't know
something
that
like
part.
lightweight based, less because titanium is too
Innovative.
expensive. Yeah, that they were trying to be innovative, but it did so many trips. But
Oh,
there's a point where it's like I guess too much. Like it'll create probably fine fractures or something, and then eventually
right. Okay.
it's gonna
No,
collapse.
but so that goes back to the Titanic thing too. It's like it looked correct up until a point. We just keep moving forward ahead with like technology. Maybe this is like just how technology works. We just keep going until an accident happens, and we correct the accident. You know.
Hmm. But I think
Actually,
this
that's
was something known, right? There was a lot of things.
oh, they
A lot
knew
of people
that
were
this
saying
was
that what
the
he's doing is not good. Like it's not, and you're bringing other
okay
people with your whatever
for
boat
sure.
thing.
For sure. Okay, so this actually reminds me of something that I saw in the Philippines recently, like a identical story. So they're expanding the roads so before it was like one lane, one car per lane
Hmm.
in Kalibo, right? So it's like yeah, two cars can fit, but they're like, oh, it's just better for traffic if we make it four lanes, right? And it was like I was able to like overtake people, whereas
Sure.
before I couldn't. But then as I was driving, my uncle's like look at those light poles that they haven't moved. So like they moved the road, but they didn't move the pole.
Uh,
And he's like, they're waiting for an accident before somebody actually
right.
moves the poles.
Right.
And it made me think of this. It's like we all see that this is a bad move. Like you should probably move the poles,
Hmm.
but they're waiting for an issue before they actually make the move to move the poles.
Right.
Because like they saw like just the ship thing. They saw that there's potentially an issue, but they like disregarded it because like, oh, it's still working up until we have an issue, and now they have to go back and like fix everything. Right?
Well,
But
the
do you think that
company,
they,
yeah.
yeah, the company, yeah. Do you think that they weighed the pros and cons for that one? They're like, we could pay out a lawsuit later on. It's fine.
They probably did, but I think the thing
You know what I'm
was,
saying, right?
yeah,
That's the trick.
I think probably yeah, but it's like they if they were doing it by themselves, because a lot of there was, I
Mm.
think even James Cameron has gone through like so many trips,
Yeah.
and he built like
That's why when people are
some
like,
specific one, but he only like one person, which is him, who can go and use it,
right,
right? So there's not.
yeah.
So I'm putting my life at risk versus like other people's.
Oh, for sure. It's funny because like everyone was probably wondering like why is James Cameron like the voice of reason for
Yeah,
this one, but it's like no, he's actually done a bunch of trips to go
yeah,
see this thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's it. Yeah, it's so interesting how like that works because you do have to mitigate a risk there. Like you have to put money aside into like an account just in case we get sued.
Hmm.
But then they look at the amount of the money and they look
Actually,
at
no, I don't
like
know if they can get sued because
risk.
there was the waiver.
Oh, so there you go. So they're like, don't worry,
I
you're
just
you're
remembered.
covered. The lawyer was like, you're fine.
Yeah, like in death or whatever. It's always a risk,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
they're always going to do that.
But their brand is probably like destroyed. They probably have to rebrand themselves now. They have to like call
Well,
themselves a
the
new
owner
name.
was in the thing, right? So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh, shoot. So at least he died too. Like he went with the ship,
yeah,
It wasn't like he just let these people go.
yeah. I think he believed in the product, but there was a lot of people that saying that it's
Yeah.
not going to work. And then eventually it stopped. It's not like he didn't. There's like a first trip. They've won on multiple trips, right? So, but over
Right.
time, I guess fine fractures. Eventually, there's can't handle it.
You know what's weird about that whole thing too? Because now that that happened, everyone probably lost their jobs from that. Like that company's not coming back,
Oh yeah.
right? Because like who's gonna rehire them unless they start a new business with a different name, but
Hmm.
same product, right? It's weird how we have these jobs that we do like every day, but they're contingent on the company succeeding.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But companies fail,
Yes.
but we can live. Like gone are the days of I mean, they said this a long time ago, but I'm seeing it from a different perspective. They're saying like gone are the days of golden handcuffs. So what golden handcuffs are is you've been in a company for like 50 years and you get like a Rolex at the end, right? Because you've been there for so long. But I think with the way innovation's moving and like companies failing and stuff, maybe that's why there's so much turnover and movement. Like think about software companies. You join a software company and you're like, how long do I have to live for this? But while you're working, you're like, oh, it's gonna work forever. But then you start to see like signs of like, oh, this is not working. This is not working.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to find a new job, you know, because like nothing is as stable as it once was, right? Like, do
Yeah.
you?
I mean, I think it depends on how big the company eventually gets, but like, there's always a risk. There's always a chance that
Right?
something's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah. Like I'm saying, I think that's what's aiding in this whole like movement of, because all I keep seeing on my feed is like another technology company goes down, hundreds of jobs lost, and I'm like, oh, there goes another one.
Really?
Yeah, there was like there's something in Toronto, like a very famous company just like went under, and they had not went under, like they had substantial losses
Right.
due to like, increased prices, and they had to lay off like 120 staff members or something like that. But like everyone was like rooting for this technology company, like oh, it's going to succeed. And then yeah, I feel like tech is so difficult to stay in because you always have these like competitors, and it's just lines of code. Like it's not like you're making well, no, even with car companies, you still have that risk too.
Yep.
Because like remember that thing that happened in Oshawa where
This GM plan, yeah.
yeah, it went down, right? Like they had to lay people off.
Yeah, that happened from 2008. The crisis
Yeah.
affected a lot of our businesses.
Yeah. Maybe it's like maybe the real issue is this because we're in a global field, there's more global competitors, and that's why you have more turnover now than you did when we were like our parents' time,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or
Makes sense.
like
Mhm.
more competitors, more potential job loss. Yeah. Anyways, you know what feature I also used for the Apple recently, and I was like, this is actually so I first saw it with the tattoo artist. He was like, he's gonna like tattoo me, and then he got a phone call and say, hey, can I answer this? Remember I told you? And then he like used the Dick Tracy thing,
Yeah.
like on his Apple Watch. Yeah.
I mean, watch. Yeah. Sorry.
Watch. And then he started talking to him. I was like, oh, like that's the first person I've ever seen use it. So Tara was at the grocery store, but she forgot her key. But I was showering, and then she called me, and then I was like, oh, cool, I can answer this on my watch. And then I like took the call, and then I was also driving another time. My sister called me, but I didn't want to ruffle like for my phone in my pocket, so I just like hit it on my watch and I started like talking.
I done it too.
I'm like,
Even
oh, this
week.
right, dude, this feature is like, oh, I didn't think I would actually use this feature.
Yeah.
And the quality is so much better on which Apple Watch do you have now?
The latest one, Series 8.
The latest one. Okay, cool. So I do too. So when I got the first Apple Watch, that feature was crap. It was like you were listening to it like it sounded like a robot, and you're like, oh, it's not working, right? But it's almost like it was the speaker on my iPhone. Like the quality is good enough that it sounded like good,
Yeah.
And I'm like, this feature was totally unsung, and it just came back, just like the Naruto anime. It was like it was there, but nobody's using it, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's like
It's just
back in action.
convenient
Everyone's using it.
depending on where you're at, right? So most calls
Hey.
I'm going to take on the phone, but like if the phone
For
is
sure.
away from me,
Yeah.
So like it happened at work, right? I was in the lab area, and my phone was on my desk, so it's like the call came in. I was like, well, I need to take this one, so I'll just take it here.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. How does that work though? Is it like a distance thing? Because I know that you can get like, okay, but I also know that you can get like data for your Apple Watch too, or something like that. Like you can leave it at home, you can go for a run, you could still take calls.
Yes, that it has its own cellular signal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's more money, right? Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was built in because I was like, how did I take this call? Because my phone wasn't near me.
Yeah, this would be running through like a Bluetooth kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
Like I can take a call on the iPad, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I love the interconnectedness of the software now, because I switched my Apple ID to a new email, and then I couldn't get this one feature to work on my laptop. And then I called Apple support, and they're like, oh, which software do you have? And they're like, oh, you need to upgrade. So I upgraded to the latest software, and now it's wild. When I put sleep mode on my phone, my computer and my watch just went on sleep mode.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on, man? Like the integratedness of like Apple is too sick. It's funny. I was having this conversation, like literally this exact conversation about how amazing Apple is with one of my coworkers, and because they're like looking for a new laptop. And I was like, you don't need a laptop. Just get a. I sent them the video of the iPad. Remember, like what is a laptop?
That video. Yeah.
I sent them that video, and I'm like, what do you use your laptop for? And they're like, oh, just like pay bills. I'm like, okay, you don't need a laptop. Just get this iPad, you know? And they saw, they're like, oh, this is super innovative, but they don't want to be a part of the ecosystem because they're like, I don't want to commit to an ecosystem, basically. Yeah. But I said, technically you are, because Android is Windows. So you are committing to either Windows or Apple, you know? And then they were like, okay, I don't want to commit to an expensive ecosystem. And I was like, that's a fair point. But look at, and then I started describing all these things where it's like everything's interconnected. If I copy something on my computer, it'll paste to my phone. You know, like I can take this call on my watch or my computer, or, you know, like it's really, yes, you're right. It's more expensive, but you get what you pay for. You know, with all these features, it's like, how could you want anything but an Apple? And I said, like, I'm not an Apple fanboy. I just love technology to work, and it's just working so well. Like, because my sister called during this podcast and I put like sleep mode, and then my computer went sleep mode on, and I was like, well, what? Everything's connected now? You know? Yeah. Even the universal control, I sent them that video too. Like, look, you can just drag and drop between devices now. It's like, name me an Android that can do that.
Right.
You know? They have one-off products. They're like, oh yeah, this phone is the best camera taker. You're like, okay, I'll like sacrifices. Sure, I won't have the best photo. You know?
I think that's the thing. That's what you have to explain it in a way where it's like, even though it's all these phones are Android, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like within their own ecosystem, it's all mixed up, right? But it may work on only the Samsung phones, but won't work on like a Google Android. Like there's a compatibility issue, right? So the like Apple has the full gambit from top to bottom.
Yeah.
All the pieces are made to work together.
Yeah. Genius. Like, why would you want your tech to not speak to each other?
Yeah.
Best company.
So did it work?
Company. Oh yeah, they said they're looking into getting an iPad now. And then I was at Costco.
There are even earlier on there were people who were like that too, where it's like I don't want to be all stuck in one. I want to have like different things, but it's like you're missing out on a lot of tech if you want to.
You are missing out on a lot of tech. Oh my god, even I was having connectivity issues with my AirPod. You have to always upgrade the software. I didn't realize like it's super important to always, you know, keep on top of that. But I was having connectivity issues with my AirPods, and then now that I made this software update, it's like, oh, it just connects super quickly now. Like they've somehow, like, you know what I mean? It's like, and switching between devices is even easier now. Before it was like, it was kind of a chore. Like it was connecting, disconnecting, you know, but I guess they fixed that bug. Yeah. So like even the AirPods now, going from one device to another, you don't have to take them out. Just like select which one you want to listen to.
Yeah.
Name me an Android that can do that. Name me like, because they're not connected. So that's why it will never work that way.
They're connected differently, and it's cumbersome.
Yeah.
Disconnect and reconnect.
Right? Yeah, why do I want to do that? Just one step, not two. Yeah. Well, what is the pricing now, though? Because, like, maybe I'm wrong on because when I pitched the iPad, they're like, oh, yeah, this is a good idea, right? But then I went to Costco and I saw iPads there for like $1,000. I was like, oh, wait, this is getting pretty expensive. Like, you can almost buy
it depends on
laptop
which
with that.
we're talking about.
That's what I was, so that's what I was thinking, like, I guess there's different levels for it.
Yeah, because iPad Pros, but they have different sizes of iPad Pros, right?
Yeah.
So you could have.
But I was like, $1,000 is a lot of money, bro. Like, I can get a Air for that price. Like, you're getting into the zone where it's like, do I want an iPad Air? I mean, sorry, an iPad Pro, or do I want a MacBook Air? Yeah. You know, you're like, Now we're costing it out.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say? Like, would you go iPad Pro or for a regular consumer? I'm saying like maybe you don't even need a Pro actually
Yeah, I
for
don't
a
think.
regular
Yeah,
consumer.
I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, just a regular iPad will totally work.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mom just used an iPad. She didn't even have a laptop.
Right.
It's like she doesn't do anything like computer intensive.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if you're editing videos, yeah, totally. You need like a laptop or like I don't know, you're using Excel spreadsheets, sure.
You're doing a lot of typing or something like that.
Yeah. But like if you're just like paying your bills, watching shows, like just go for an iPad. You don't need that. Yeah, and this person's also a drawer too. So like the
Oh, that
pen
would be
feature,
good.
they were like, "Oh, this is really cool." I was like, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the pen, um, the pressure sensitivity makes it feel like an actual pen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "What are we doing? This is the no brainer." You know, iPad's the move.
Yeah.
Do you envision Apple being right about that? Where it's like, what is a laptop? Like most people are just gonna go
Yeah, I think so. Well,
iPad.
I think I saw that long time ago. Right.
Yeah, true.
I saw
I
that
mean, you
long
can get a
time ago.
keyboard still.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if
Like
you
it,
really want it, you can get a keyboard. But
yeah. Well, we bought my mom a keyboard because we're like, because she's like, I want. So she initially wanted a laptop. She's like, I want a new
yeah,
laptop.
because that's what we're familiar with, right? This is a new
Right,
kind of thing. Yeah.
right. But and I was the one pitching. Let's just get mom an iPad. So we got an iPad, and I'm like, all right, mom, just in case you want a keyboard because like you're used to it.
Mm-hmm.
We bought her a keyboard. Doesn't touch the keyboard. Just types right on. I'm like, exactly. Like this is the move. Like nobody wants that old school
Right.
like feel. You're like in the future now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah, Apple's definitely the best. Okay, a couple more things. What actually no, there's one substantial one I want to get to. What time we at? Might jump to it now.
7 minutes.
Okay, I'll run through these two quickly and then I'll jump to the main topic that I want to talk about. Okay, so I was at a family party and Jan, you know Jan, right?
Yeah, yeah.
My cousin? Yeah. So he was like telling me how when we were in the Philippines, you were there too. It was like a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying how like we were talking about how Asia is going to overtake the West. I've been championing that for a while, you know, because I learned in school. It's like I'm not pioneering an idea that I thought like I'm like literally. But he brought it up because we hadn't seen each other since Asia, like going to the Philippines together. I saw him at a family party, and he was like, "Oh yeah, South Korea is booming." And I'm like, "Yes, bro." Like you saw it because we both had layovers, but different times in South Korea.
Yeah, yeah.
But that airport alone was just like, what is going on with the city?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I showed you the robots and like all that stuff, like the porter robots. But what he was saying, it's so funny because he's like, you know, we're like into really Western economics. He's really into Asian economics because like he lives there, right? So like all the media he consumes is all Asian.
Right.
So one thing he was saying was, South Korea is trying to become the next Japan. I'm like, oh really? And he's like, but the interesting part is South Korea was ruled by Japan for so long, so they just learned their tricks,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're booming. Because like
Yeah.
the face the robots I showed you is like, what is this, man?
Mm-hmm.
You know. So now I really want to go to see South Korea. But he was saying, he brought it up because he's like, I could see the tides turning now. Because he came back to Canada too, and he was like, what are we doing here? I was like, I had the exact same thought. I'm like, it's so like old. But we thought this was innovative, you know?
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I even went to this thing yesterday, Stacked. It's this like a new artsy location in downtown Toronto.
Okay.
It's like very, like, it's very artsy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? I was like, oh, this is really cool. Doesn't hold a candle to Asia though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's like
Right.
if this one little piece was all over, I'd be like, okay, we're in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
But like Canada has a small tiny piece that they think is really cool. And you're like, oh, Canada's so innovative. It's like, not really. You really gotta see Asia. Like they're really making moves over there. But it's just funny that he brought it up too, because when he came back, he was like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not as great as we thought it was
Right.
before leaving. Anyways, all right. So the next thing is air quality in Toronto. Did you notice the wildfires,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the smoke?
Yeah.
Okay, so he thought
Who's he?
at the party,
Oh.
Jan, this is the same party, same day when it happened. This is when we were at the party together. It was last Wednesday. He was like, I was like, oh, did you guys feel the wildfire smoke? And all my cousins were like, yeah. So I was like, no, that's placebo, bro. But I was walking down the street and I was like, oh, I'm getting a headache, and then my throat hurts. And then Tara was like, yeah, me too. And I was like, oh wait, is this the wildfire thing? Like, I was just like, did I not sleep the night before? What's going on? But she's like, no, it's like the toxins in the air. So he thought, Jan was like, oh, I thought it was just fog, because it looked like fog. He had no idea.
Generally, in like, I would say Asian countries, or some Asian.
Oh yeah,
countries,
it's just fog. The
smog is no, because I think I saw like that the like air quality advisor, whatever it was, like one of the
we're the worst in the world.
Yeah. And if you look at the other countries,
but we were number one.
Yeah. So, but if you look at the other countries, generally we're not that high, right? So our quality of the air was that bad.
Yeah. But it's just funny is like he had no idea that but they're like, don't you smell that?
Yeah.
But he wasn't on like social media checking it out. He was just like, oh, it's a foggy day.
It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to. You should be seeing like blue skies. You're not supposed to see like gray skies.
Yeah, wild. But you got it where you were?
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Yeah, wild. And it made me think about how globally connected we are. Like, imagine if there was a cataclysm at one part of the world. It's actually segueing into my next topic. We were rewatching Ancient Apocalypse because me and Tara were just talking about like ancient stuff. You and I saw Graham Hancock. Like, we also saw Graham Hancock. I was talking about Ancient Apocalypse for a while, but she didn't know it was by Graham Hancock. And then when she did, she was like, okay, I'll watch it. Mm-hmm. Right. So in that, he talks about like ancient cataclysms, right? Apocalypse like events. Yeah. And it made me think, like, with this wildfire alone, we're being affected. So what if something really catastrophic happened, like a meteor hit and then a wave, like, it really would affect multiple parts of the world. Yeah. Like, I was like, no, that's Alberta, bro. How is wildfire smoke going to get to Toronto? It's impossible.
But it's not Alberta's fire, just so you know.
Okay. Tell me more. Oh, okay. Quebec is relatively close. Yeah.
It all depends on like, how the winds were going too, right? But if the winds are, it was, I think, counterclockwise from Quebec into Toronto.
Oh, okay. Well, there was another day when there was like wildfires in Alberta, and somebody in our Slack channel was like, "Look at the, like it's hazy."
No, I know at that time, yeah.
And I was like, "What?"
It wasn't the same.
But I didn't notice it though. It wasn't like the level that it was.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that day
it wouldn't be the same. It's not the same. Like there is some levels, but it's not the levels that we would have because we're super close to Quebec.
Right. Okay. This makes sense now. Okay, I feel a lot better that was Quebec smoke because that's relatively close. I thought it was Alberta. I'm like, okay, what? That's wild. Like, that's a lot of smoke.
It's a Quebec fire.
Yeah. Okay, but even still, like the principle still remains. If something happened in a different part of the world, if it was massive enough, it really would reach us, and that's pretty crazy to think about. Yeah.
Massive enough, of course.
Yeah, we are more interconnected than we thought. How even the thing in Japan, the nuclear power plant, and it was affecting BC or something like that. Remember, like, they were noticing.
Well, not noticing
radiation or something.
Eventually, these radiations were going to hit.
Will hit.
Yeah. Just because we're like going through the water currents, right? They're carrying the.
Right. Yeah. So like, thinking about it that way, it's like we are so interconnected as a planetary species. Mm-hmm. That like we really do need safeguards, like Elon Musk's. Making us populate other planets. Right. I see the value in that. Okay, so here's the main topic. Well, one of the bigger ones I really want to get into. So we're watching the Graham Hancock thing, and I'm like, oh, dude, see, the archaeologists are wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then Tara's like, well, what if Graham's wrong? And I was like, no, but there's so much evidence. Like, science is telling you, right? But she's like, you're only piecing that one side. I'm like, yeah, you're right. She's like, what about the counter arguments? So the genius part is Graham actually plays counter arguments during his show. So one thing that this one guy said was, if Graham was right, where is the trash? Where's the example of tools? So here's, let me set the stage. So they say that we were using stone tools up to 6,000 years ago, and that's when we started to like really evolve ourselves. But a lot of these megalithic structures that were definitely not made by stone tools were made like 10,000 years ago, right? That's according to non-official claims, right? Like you're using like outside scientists doing their own like work, and then they're like, actually it dates back further. And then regular scientists, regular archaeologists don't want to agree with it. They don't want to go back and double check. So that's why they're having the contention. So the only one they agree on, and that's why Graham keeps bringing it up, is Göbekli Tepe. So this one in Turkey, even the archaeologists agree that it's 11,000 years old. Okay? Which predates by 5,000 years, like the stone tool development. So like at 6,000 years BC, we started using stone tools and developing. But this was made in 11,000 years. So, and not only that, what Graham said was, if it's 11,000 years, you need thousands of years to actually learn how to do that. So this 11,000 years is like the pinnacle we saw, but you had to see, if you look at any technological development, you see the curve upwards. Like, oh, we're learning how to do this. Like Apple, we can trace the history. Like this is how we did it, right? But we don't see any evidence of the development of those technologies. So that's one point. Okay? And that's the point they're saying to Graham. That's why they're like, oh, Graham, you're wrong. Like, you don't see any development. You see the development of stone tools, so that's what we're going with, right? There's no advanced things. And Graham's like, okay, maybe it was washed in the water, maybe, like it sunk, blah, 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 right? So in the second point, this is not this kind of brought on by what the guy said. He's like, where's their trash? So for us, we would see plastic that will not break down over thousands of years. Like, it has a long lifespan to actually destroy itself, plastic. So if 20,000 years from now, they'll be able to dig up our trash.
Right.
Okay? So then this is what Tara clicked in, and I'm giving full credit to her, because I'm like, it actually makes sense now. She said, where's the housing?
The foundation.
So, right. So you have these megalithic temples. Where do these people live? Did these people live in huts? That's impossible. So are they, where is their 11,000-year-old settlements? You'd see the foundation for living quarters, right? If they were made by us. Sure. So what she said was, it's obviously aliens. And hold on. So I'm like, that's BS. I'm like, that's BS, bro. It's not aliens. Come on. What are you talking about? She's like, no, there's no other explanation. Both sides are wrong, right? Graham's saying the archaeologists are wrong.
Right.
The archaeologists saying Graham's wrong. So she's like, Occam's razor. What's the most likely answer? The most likely answer is always the truest answer. It's aliens.
Well, that's what we have.
And I'm
aliens, right? Don't we have the show Ancient Aliens?
Now, this is the part that's messing with my head. Because now I'm like, now do I got to go back and rewatch it? So when she said that, I was like, this actually makes, because she's like, there's no evidence of them living. So obviously something came down, built it, and just left it. Or else you'd find living quarters.
Yeah.
If they did build it, you'd find where they live too. So then and then everything started to click as soon as she said it was aliens. So Graham Hancock doesn't believe in aliens. So that's probably why he's not saying it. So what they notice is all of the structures are orienting themselves to a specific star, right? So what they notice, all of these megalithic structures are pointing to a specific star, right? And she's like, well, that's where the aliens live, duh. And I'm like, maybe, because here's the wild part. As time goes on, in our night sky, they said every 70 years, the stars shifts by a quarter of a centimeter, something like that. And in the night sky, you can map it out. Yeah. So what they noticed was all of these structures started to being redeveloped into a specific orientation, the same orientation. So they kept trying to track the specific star cluster. So what they noticed, so it looks like a megalith, but they realized that because of the age differences, that they were built later. So it's like they built one, it's pointing at a specific star, and they're like, oh, it's not working anymore. So they built another one, and they built another one, then they built another one. So now you have 4 with different age ranges because they kept trying to track a specific star, star cluster, right? And to us, it looks like it's like, oh wow, they built these like rolling megaliths, right? But it's like, no, it's one that they kept trying to shift. Right. He shows that in the doc. So my thought now is Earth just a way station? Yeah, is it like
maybe we're like Stargate? It's Stargate.
That's what I'm saying, bro. No, but actually think about that. It's like maybe there's all right. This is so out there. Okay, but it's actually makes total sense. What if they all come from this one cluster, but they need a way back? It's sort of like when you're going through the forest and you put like marks on the trees.
Like a compass, yeah.
Right? And they're using all of these planets to jump back to where they need to go. And that's what these megaliths are. That's why you don't see any people structure, because people didn't make them. Literally, the aliens made them for themselves in order to like jump back to where they need to go. Right. And that also explains why they say there are, this is not proven, but there's theories that there are pyramids on Mars. Right? You've heard that before, right? Yeah. Right? Sounds so ridiculous. Like, why are there pyramids on Mars? Makes no sense. But it's like, actually, it does make sense if they're way stations. If we are just one of the way stations. Okay, disprove it. I don't know. What do you think? Like, I was like, it actually kind of makes sense.
I wonder, like, what are they saying in Ancient Aliens? Like, is that what they're saying?
Okay. So the only theory that I know of that is close to this one, and that's why I was tripping out. I don't know the Ancient Aliens ones, but the most prominent one is Zecharia Sitchin, who basically he decoded the Sumerian text, and he said that it's basically about aliens. And I was like, there's no way, it's not real. Joe Rogan was super deep into it, and then he did the show called Joe Rogan Questions Everything, and he met people who believe in aliens. He's like, oh, these are people with just mental health issues. So he stopped believing in aliens. Okay? Joe Rogan went from a huge believer, because he read all this stuff, into a non-believer. Okay? And then now, with the government releasing all of this alien footage, he went back to, like, okay, there's aliens again. Like, there must be aliens. So, like, I was showing Tara, like, so many alien documentaries about, like, government capturing. So it's like, okay, you can't deny that there are aliens. That there are no aliens. Like, we are... The craziest one that we're watching right now is in 1996. 1996. In Virginia, Brazil, a plane crashed. And, an alien popped out, and then this police, like all these people saw it, right? And this police officer came out, grabbed the alien, put it in the car, and then they took the alien to like a military base. Right. And the person that grabbed the alien died of an unknown bacterial infection.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the most famous story because like there's so many witnesses and like people physically touched this thing. They saw it, right? They had like artist renditions. So it's hard to deny that there are aliens, right? So now how does it all fit into the puzzle? And I think what Tara said actually makes sense of it all fitting in the puzzle. It's like, yeah, we didn't build those things because how could we?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know? And even if there was, because Graham Hancock believes that there's an advanced civilization on Earth, right? That was here, like the Atlanteans. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I totally believe in it too. Like I sent you that video of it's in the Sahara Desert. They found, right? So there was an advanced civilization, for sure. But the question is, like that one guy said, where's their trash? Where is like regular stuff that humans would naturally build? Mm-hmm. Right? But we don't see that. So what if those Atlanteans are actually aliens? What if that was like their main port? Like, you know, like you have like when you have a space station, you have eating quarters. You don't just have space station. Like there's places for them to sleep, work out, you know, socialize, stores. So what if that's what Atlantis was? What if Atlantis was like their mall? You know, on their way home, you could stop, get a bite to eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it wasn't an advanced civilization of humans. Maybe it was aliens. Okay, wait. Go back to the 10th planet theory. Let me fill this in and then I'll get your perspective because you need to like hear the whole lay of the land. So what the 10th planet theory is this. You hear the Anunnaki?
Yeah, you talk about that.
Okay, oh, it's like very famous in this is so wild. I can't believe I'm actually talking about this because I thought it was all BS, but now I'm kind of like, wait a minute, this is all making sense. So the Anunnaki is they believe that they are the alien gods who ruled over Egypt. And a lot of, like proponent African Americans who wear like the Egyptian stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, we were kings back in the day, like African kings. They believe in the Anunnaki. Like a lot of rappers will believe in the Anunnaki.
Right, okay.
But I was like, I don't like, right. It's just like historical within Egypt, So basically, this every 4,000 years, their planet comes close enough to our solar system that they can jump to our Earth. This is the 10th planet theory.
Yep.
But they need resources from Earth
Mm-hmm.
to help protect their planet. And the main resource is gold. Because gold, I think I've talked about this before, gold is what helps protect their atmosphere from like too much radiation from the sun.
Okay.
So when they came down to Earth, they're like, how are we going to mine for this gold? So they saw ape-like creatures and they used experimentation and turned them into, like they spliced us a bit and they made humans. Which also explains why we have a missing link for apes. Right? So like, you heard of the missing link? Like us and apes, we're very close genetically, but there's one missing link that they can't tie together, and that's why they can't say that we're like definitively evolved from apes. Theoretically, we're evolved from apes, but they don't know it scientifically. There's like a missing link. Have you heard of that before?
I don't think that. Well, I don't know. It depends on what you mean by missing link. I thought they found like all these different variations of bones or evolution of bones.
No. Right. No, but genetically. No. Yeah, the bones. Yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. But they're genetically, they can't tie us together. That's why they can't definitively say we came from apes. Because there's something there. Like they can see the progression, but they can't be like 100% we were apes once. That's just the prevailing wisdom. Like everyone just says we are descended from apes.
What was
right?
Yeah, but I don't know what they mean by I don't know what they're looking for. What would be considered as a missing link, right?
A genetic code. Like because they can genetically see us, they can genetically see apes, and then there's like a point where it's like it doesn't fit, and we can't technically say that we are apes, and that's why like Jesus believers are like we're not apes.
But
I don't know. Yeah, I
don't know. It depends on. I don't know what
okay.
definition means, right?
All right. So yeah, we are. No, right. But there's like a missing link there. We'll Google it after the podcast. So to like,
I don't know what
to
that
give
means
you the full context. Right. Google it after the podcast because we can't Google it now. So basically, there's a missing link, genetic code, where it's like it doesn't match up, right? So what they're saying is that the aliens came down and spliced us, and the missing link was the alien intervention.
So that's the catalyst.
The
aliens did was the catalyst
to make us human. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the alien theory. We know that scientifically there's a missing link, but alien people are trying to use that as a rationale for why there's a missing link. Sure. Right. Mm-hmm. Like right. Okay. So all that in mind. So then they created us, and then we're the ones who harvest the materials for them. And every 4,000 years, we realign. We can move back and forth. Like they're close enough to like teleport back and forth.
Okay.
Between us and their planet. Again, I'm not saying I believe in this. I'm just saying that this is what they believe. And now I'm going to go a whole deep dive because I'm like, okay, maybe things are actually kind of true. So, what, like with all that in mind, do you think there's some validity to this?
Well, I mean, that's a lot of questions. So, like, why?
Like, that's a good question about.
So, no, I'm just asking. Like, so they need the gold to protect themselves from their sun's radiation?
I don't know. There's something with their atmosphere. I don't know. I don't know. Like,
so
we won't.
What I'm saying is, is there an issue with, like moving to this planet and staying in this planet?
I don't know. We won't get into their specifics because I don't know enough about it. I'm just saying, talking about the megaliths. This is the main point of this.
Alien.
Like,
okay.
Yeah. That like I don't know enough about the 10th planet stuff to actually know what's going on there. I'm just saying, like, that actually explains the megaliths now. Because where is the living quarters of the people that made that? You would find living quarters, like you'd find like structures, like what do you call that? Foundations
Mm-hmm.
of buildings that are equal to the same age as the megalith. Would you not? But we don't find those.
Mm-hmm.
You only find that the megaliths are that old.
I wonder it. So it depends on what the megaliths are used for. So a lot of times, also what people do is they make religious structures much more like grand,
It's not religious. It's they thought it was religious.
or whatever
It
they were
has to do
using it
with
for, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
for they're using it for star watching and
so
season
right. So how much?
planting. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how much are these buildings as revered, right? Something.
okay,
What I mean by like religious structures, like you want to make grand things for your whatever's helping your thing,
yep,
right? And then living
for sure.
structures are like really.
Sure. Let's say they lived in huts. All right, fine. We'll delete that. We'll delete that.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's say they lived in huts, which makes no sense because like you have this giant structure, you don't want to live a comfortabler life. You're going to live in a hut. All right, cool. You live in a hut. Where's the technology? Where's the remnants of that technology?
Right.
That's another question.
Mm-hmm.
And then, other than the remnants of the technology, where's the trash? Where's the waste? We would
Right.
find where. No. One thing Tara said actually, she's like, "Where are the bones?" And I was like, "That's true. Where are the dead bones that date back that far?"
Right.
Like you would, even if, because I was like, no, they would just commute to that location. They obviously don't live there. They probably built it. Like it's like, I don't live in downtown Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just look far enough, you'll find something like that. How come nobody's found, not only just, because you'd have burial sites. We bury the dead all the time. We still do that. So where are the dead bones? Where are the dead people?
Mm-hmm.
So you have no dead people around the megaliths. You have no living quarters around the megaliths. You have no trash around the megaliths. You have no tools around the megaliths. But you have a megalith.
Yeah.
Aliens. The only explanation would be aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's hard to refute that. No, but really though, right? Like, but because those arguments, like, where are the bones? Where are the living quarters? Where are the tools? You know, all that's, where's the trash? Those are all theories against Graham Hancock. That's why they're saying he's not correct.
Yeah.
And then Graham Hancock saying, but science is showing us that the carbon dating is correct. We just agreed upon Göbekli Tepe. That's like the most agreed upon megalith. Like archaeologists and Graham Hancock both said it's 11,000 years old, predating by 5,000 years when we started using stone tools.
Yeah.
So where's the lead up into that development of the megalith?
Right.
So what do you think?
But also, like, I was just thinking, we don't put where we bury the bodies is like kind of far away from the town, right?
But wouldn't somebody find something somewhere? You don't think archaeologists have been digging like all over?
I don't think
in that area.
No, a lot of times what happens is you're.
But how far are you commuting?
No.
There's so many questions to that.
Sure. But like even like a lot of the times that we find things like archaeology stuff, it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna build something here, and then.
Yeah, totally, for sure. But for sure. But the megaliths aren't just one. It's like they're all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So in all megaliths, you didn't find any of this stuff. You didn't find human remains, trash, tools, living foundations. None of that. In all of them,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So what is the I don't know, like what else could it be?
I don't know. That's the answers. I don't know.
Right, no, for sure. We don't know, but if you're like, if it's like Occam's razor, it's like you keep taking away all the possibilities until you're left with the most reasonable theory. And isn't it weird? The most reasonable theory right now is aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Or gods. Maybe God does exist. But like the way that the Megaliths keep chasing the star cluster.
Right.
That's also weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it with this star cluster?
Right.
Right. What he says at the end, we haven't hit that part. Jared and I just want to.
I wonder, yeah, maybe we've,
I want.
you know, how many billions of years old is this planet, right? So
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
like, can we have done
So wait.
space travel? Like some creature?
Mm. Oh, interesting. Wait, hold on. All right, we'll get back into that. I just want to say one thing. At the end of the documentary, he basically shows that the star cluster that they keep chasing is the one that hit Earth. So they're trying to warn us that another asteroid's going to come.
Oh, from
so
asteroid in that direction.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why they keep chasing it, because an asteroid came from that direction and hit Earth. But I'm like, I don't know anymore. I don't know. Like, kind of a weird guess.
But like,
You know, you're like fitting that theory too nicely.
I don't know if
actually.
But like from everywhere, like did they know? Who knows where the asteroid came from? Like,
Exactly. That's why I'm like, I don't know, Graham. I don't know if that's real. Like, that's what he says at the end of his documentary.
Right.
Like that it's a warning that an asteroid's going to come hit us.
But that doesn't make sense though. A lot of times you wouldn't.
It'll come from anywhere, bro.
From. Yeah.
Totally,
like
totally.
That did come by us. Like there's been like whatever's been seen or some.
It was already passing by.
Yeah, and they are like already calculating if the trajectory that it was going, well, it's going to come back around after like so many years, but like it's going to be in this position or that. I don't think if you've got hit, how would you know where it came from?
Totally. So these are great questions as to why Graham's thing is like wrong. So now again, Occam's razor. If Graham's wrong, archaeologists is wrong. Aliens. Like there's no other.
Yeah.
There's actually no other explanation. I can't think of one.
Well, yeah,
because those are like
logical theories out there too, right?
Yeah, but you think it's garbage? Like no, there's no way that's real.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we watch it, we're like,
now is yeah.
But the part that's crazy is like there's so much evidence for aliens coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that they're aliens, and we know there are a lot of questions about these megaliths. Why don't you put the two together?
Right.
And then assume that we're just a way station for aliens to like get home. That actually makes total sense because we would do the exact same thing. All right, let's go back to your point. Like, how do we know that a civilization wasn't intergalactically traveling? Because you said like billions of years. How do we know some sort of like iteration of us didn't create space travel like Elon Musk? Mm-hmm. Right. And maybe those are their way stations that they created, you know? Yeah. Maybe it was us, you know, who created these way stations. But then if that's true, then you'd still find living quarters, dead bodies. Because what would they do with all this stuff? They don't live on this planet? Yeah, like if it was us.
Yeah. Well, like how old are
you know what I'm saying?
How old actually are these structures? Maybe it depends on that.
11, well, they know it's 11,000 years old.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's based on organic material around the thing, right?
Oh yeah, and you can only carbon date organic material. Yeah.
If it's much older than that, you wouldn't know.
Oh damn!
Right.
Okay, but then how come the megaliths survived and nothing else?
Well, because of how big they are, right?
Yeah, but you wouldn't have built anything bigger than this. Like we built cities, bro.
Yeah, they can collapse. Like what happened to? I just was watching like 9/11 thing. That's like.
But even if they do collapse, you would still see, like, because we saw Pompeii, right? Was it Pompeii? No, we were in Greece. Well, basically, we saw like in Greece there was like a volcano hit, destroyed an entire city, and then you can go through the archaeological site. I forgot which one it was. But you can go through it and you see like definite rooms in houses. You see definite,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So you're like, okay, this is humans.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like it depends on how old they are.
Oh, so you think they got destroyed?
It could be. We don't. Like if also,
but like they all got destroyed except for the megaliths.
Like I'm saying is like it depends on how big these structures are, right?
The megaliths?
Yeah.
Or the homes?
Well, the megaliths are that big that if an asteroid, if maybe parts of these theories are correct.
Okay.
Even asteroid impacts are correct.
Wait a minute. Wait, I just realized something. Okay, wait, hold on, wait. Actually, this makes way more sense. Okay, so what if the Atlantis was an alien mall? Let's say it's an alien mall, okay? Where people, like, on your way home, you would, visit this spot, get a bite to eat. But then an asteroid came, destroyed everything, right? But I forgot to mention the 7 sages. Because the reason why all these megaliths on the Earth are around is because this is literally why they're around. So they found that there are these 7 individuals carved into all of these statues that are very similar in design at each location. And they took their technology and they shared that with different places in the world. That's why Chichen Itza in Mexico, Bali was one, Indonesia was another one. America was another one. There's so many. Egypt, Turkey, Peru, all these places, right? These 7 sages are the ones that taught the locals how to build these things. So what if the asteroid hit, destroyed all the way stations, and they're like, oh dude, we need to get back home. So these 7 sages went out, built these stations, and then they created like their own makeshift ports.
Right.
That actually kind of makes sense too. Because how would they know? Because they're like, oh, the 7 sages brought their technology and brought civilization to the hunter-gatherers. So what if the aliens came, they saw these hunter-gatherers, and then they're like, well, we need this land as a way station. We'll keep our island away from all of them. That's why it's in the Sahara Desert.
Right.
They found like the Atlantis. And then they were trying not to interfere with the indigenous.
Yeah. Right. To not affect with the indigenous, you'd make.
We'll just keep it in a central location,
far away from where they're at. Yeah.
And they had their way stations already. Like maybe they were floating. Maybe the way stations were floating. That's why you couldn't find them before.
Right.
And then the asteroid hit. Most people died, and it destroyed their city, their Atlantis. And then they're like, okay, well, there's some of us who remember. There's scientists how to make these way stations. Go out into the world and make these way stations. But they went out in the world. They needed help.
Right.
So they used us to rebuild the way stations. Maybe it's not even the 10th planet thing. They need resources. Maybe that's literally what happened.
Right. Yeah.
That actually makes sense. Right?
Sure.
It doesn't sound ridiculous. It's like we would do the exact same thing. We're like, crap, we need to get home. We need help. We'll teach you guys how to build this with us. Right. And we'll use the technology we have. Right. And then we're going to leave you. Because that's the story of Quetzalcoatl in Mexico. Quetzalcoatl came. He was one of the 7 sages. He taught them how to build pyramids. Then he left.
Right.
So it's like maybe he's like, I just need this way station. Quid pro quo. I'm going to show you guys how to make civilization. You're going to make me make this pyramid. I'm going to get home.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
We would do the exact same thing.
Okay.
I will give you this. You will give me this. Right. And another crazy part is they always talked about
need these way stations.
Maybe not, or maybe they do. Maybe Earth is just it's just like Men in Black. It's like Earth is like a tourist area. Like we just come, like aliens visit us all the time. They just take on like suits that look human.
Yeah.
And then they go back to their home. Maybe because we have tourism too. Like it's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah, why not go to another planet?
It actually makes sense. It's not like, right? It doesn't sound far fetched. It's like we would do the exact same thing.
Right.
And then one other crazy thing is all of these here's another crazy thing. This is wild. So in the Egyptian pyramids, you'll see these hieroglyphs of these leaders who are giants compared to the workers, right? They have like these giant pharaohs, right?
Yep.
And they said that Quetzalcoatl and all these other sages were giants. But what's his name? Graham Hancock said, I don't believe in literal giants. Maybe they meant giants in terms of their intellect. But now I'm thinking maybe they really were giants.
Right.
Because that's why would every place depict them as giants?
Yeah.
So maybe like,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maybe they were giants in Atlantis. Why do you see no dead bodies? Because nobody, if I died in the Philippines, they're bringing my body back home. They're not going to bury me in the Philippines.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the Filipino people will bury themselves there. So like you see hunter-gatherers burial sites.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't you see alien burial sites? Because why would I leave the body behind?
Right.
Will send it back to its original planet. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Doesn't this all make sense now, though?
Yeah. It's a mixture of all of them. Yeah. Story.
Yeah. Like it puts into account like Men in Black. It puts into account like why we're seeing aliens now. Maybe these aliens that we're seeing are just like literally tourists. They're not trying to harm us. They're just like, what's going on down here?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
Because one thing they see too is like different types of vehicles. So like this is actually true within the military. They've captured multiple versions of vehicles that are flying. But they're like, we don't know what each one does.
Right.
So what if we're all getting hung up on like, oh my God, they're attacking us. It's like, no, that's actually a tourist bus. That's actually a transit bus. You know, like how we like, okay, we're going to bring you to your hotel now. And they like put us all on a bus together.
Yeah.
And that's all we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And like our technology is finally quick enough to catch these things that have always been around.
Right.
Well, all right, what time are we at? One last thing.
1 hour 36. Kind of.
Oh my God, I knew this was gonna be a long.
Yeah,
the alien one is because it made sense. Anyways, all right, two last things. One thing is, Brazil has seen so many aliens visiting. There's so many like alien sightings in Brazil. Like even some crazy ones where an alien ship was over a baseball stadium for like 20 minutes and they all saw it, they all captured it. But like this is being suppressed. So why would the aliens go to Brazil? I don't actually know that answer. It's just kind of weird. Like why are they all going to Brazil? Because we all like Brazil. They're like, oh, the culture's cool, the food's nice. You know, if we look at it like tourism.
Yeah. Maybe it's true. Maybe.
Right? Like maybe they're just like, I like it here.
Right.
Okay, there's that. And then the other thing is, if aliens really did exist and they were around us, and there were these 7 sages, what if Elon Musk is an alien? Tara firmly believes Elon Musk is an alien. Because how does he know so much? Why is he trying to get us off world? Why is he saying he's never seen an alien, but he works in space?
Right.
He just doesn't want to freak us all out. Why is he so brilliant?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she's like half joking when she says he's an alien, but like, what if there are these individuals that come down and they're just taking the form of humans and they're actually aliens, trying to push society along?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Elon's like, hey, I know that you're going to freak out if I tell you that I see aliens on the regular and I am an alien, so I'm just going to tell you that I've never caught an alien on camera.
Right.
He said that. Like, he's a firm non-believer in aliens. I've seen his podcast episodes with Joe Rogan and stuff, and Joe Rogan's trying to like, hey man, you must see aliens. He's like, never seen one. Right? Of course you would say you haven't seen one.
That's what.
But like, why are you trying to get us off-world so hard?
Yeah, those types of geniuses or world-changing people are very far.
Yeah.
Between. Yeah.
Right? Steve Jobs. I don't think Steve Jobs was an alien because he died of pancreatic cancer. Maybe he's working with aliens. I don't know.
Maybe.
Or maybe he's just a genius. Who knows? But like Elon Musk, like why'd you give us Starlink?
Mm-hmm.
Like Elon Musk knows about this global catastrophe. Actually, I was listening to a podcast about this. You know the whole thing about asteroids hitting Earth?
Yep.
That's the whole reason.
Yep.
Let me say this right now. Listen to so many podcasts, and he keeps saying it.
Yep.
He's seen all the evidence on asteroids hitting Earth. And he's like, we need to get off Earth.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen all the evidence about polar shifts too, like a lot of global cataclysms. And he's like, we need to get off Earth.
Right.
That's why he's obsessed with SpaceX and colonizing the planet. Like, when people are like, what is he doing with SpaceX and like whatever, I'm like, no, literally the impetus for this was he read all of the research on global cataclysms and asteroids hitting us, and he freaked out and he's like, we need to get off Earth. Right. So, that all being said, it's like, what if he's a goddamn alien, bro?
It's true. Yeah, we don't know.
Like, why do you know everything?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird. Just some thoughts. Anyways, okay, that was a long one. Any final thoughts about that? Do you agree, disagree, think it's plausible, don't think it's
No,
plausible?
I think it's. I've been very much interested in aliens since we were kids, right? We've always.
I know, Starseed, bro. You were number one. You love Superman because aliens, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's for real. Yeah.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they might be among us. Yeah. I think.
If you don't know what Starseed is, that you were the one who first told me about this. You listened to it on what was that radio hour you always used to listen to?
It's
Talk show.
Is it Coast to Coast?
Coast to Coast. Yeah, Coast to Coast. Yeah. Coast to Coast. And in that you heard about Starseed. So basically a Starseed is the soul of an alien that came, not an alien, soul from a different civilization came to Earth, and you were born with that soul because we are interconnected as a universe, and like souls don't die. Anyways, so yeah, continue. You were super an alien. So this is making sense to you? Like this is like firing you up, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved.
Because it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, like, because we have all these ancient apocalypse, or now you have also ancient aliens. Like where,
Yeah,
maybe there's a combination of them both, right? Which
yeah,
is probably makes more sense if they were all combined together versus being separate. Why do they have to be separated?
yeah. Exactly. And again, I just want to give credit to Tara for this because she was like, "Make sure you credit me on this one," because it's true. It's like. Because I was like, no, Graham's right. And she's like, no, Graham's kind of wrong. She's like pointing out all the flaws in his show. And then like, well, I was like, but they're pointing out flaws. Like he's pointing out flaws for them. And that's when it clicked. Like Occam's razor. Like literally you just keep going back until you find the most logical conclusion, and it's aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's also weird that the logical conclusion's aliens. And for how long have we thought people who believe in aliens are crazy?
Right. Yeah.
But it's like, this is actually making sense because, like, if you find an 11,000-year-old megalith, you're going to find evidence of 11,000-year-old civilizations because they don't just build technology overnight. That's Graham Hancock's theory or his, like, rebuttal. You can't just wake up the next day and you're like, technology, right?
Where's he always says the lead up.
There has to be a lead up.
Yeah. So where's that?
There's always a lead up.
Right.
But there's no lead up. But then now with this new theory about the Seven Sages, so like what if Atlantis was just like a mall or like a meeting point before you go back home and that got destroyed? That actually makes sense that you would leave and you're like, we need to rebuild these playstations so we can go back home. Mm-hmm. You go to the hunter-gatherers, ask for help. You give them civilization. Because in every story about civilization, it's about some deity comes down and teaches you civilization. Right. That's also in the Sumerian text. There's like it's in the Egyptian text as well. Horus came down and like, he actually brings it up in the show. It's like Horus and Isis or something. He's like husband and wife. They went down to Egypt. They taught them how to build stuff. They taught them how to formalize. Horus went back to wherever he was from, and he left Isis there.
Gods are the aliens, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, literally. But it's like they're not really like gods. It's just like
no.
They are aliens.
Yeah. We were depicting them as gods.
Yeah, but they're just aliens that were just like, hey man, I just want to go back home.
Right.
Like, I didn't expect this Earth to blow up, and it did. So I need your help. Right, and that's why like every culture around the world has a story because he proved it. Like there was a global cataclysm back 11,000 years ago. Or 12,000 years ago. And what he said was every religion has a flood story. But it makes sense because an asteroid hit and flooded the most of the Earth.
Right.
They found that scientifically, right? So if every religion has a story about a god figure coming down teaching everyone about civilization, well, we know there's some truth to that. So what is the god figure if not an alien?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It logically makes sense. Okay, anyways. All right, that is all stuff to ponder. Hopefully we get into more realistic things next week because I feel like that was like, it sounds so dumb.
But I wonder.
Like, I'm in full knowledge of how ridiculous it sounds.
Yeah. We should watch the Ancient Aliens things because they have like so many seasons of that show.
Bro, I'm right after this. I'm going to watch it because like now you want to see what fits into this theory.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's like they're like, oh yeah, you're cherry picking, but it's like not really. Like you're onto something now. Now it's like let's see which makes sense in this theory.
Because you got to get a perspective on all of them now, right? Since they're all
Yeah.
separated in their thinking.
Yeah.
So maybe this story fits with another story, right? We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, that's funny that you say that actually, because if you look at spirituality, it's like if you look at all forms of spirituality, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Zen, Christianity, all this stuff, they're all talking about that flow state, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we already figured that part out. Okay, you have a mind, you have consciousness separated from your mind. So how did you figure that out? You just looked at all the theories and you saw the underlying narrative between all of them.
Right.
So now we're just going to do the exact same thing, but with aliens in history. Look at all of them, see what the underlying narrative is between all of them, and that must be the answer.
Right.
But okay, wait, sorry, one last thing. So because in the documentary, he was saying how the first mention of Atlantis was in Plato's accounts, and I'm like, that's actually not true.
Was it Plato?
Right? He said
Plato or Aristotle.
No, it's Plato. It's Plato. Solon is a family member of Plato or something, or a teacher of Plato, and then Solon Solon went to Egypt, learned about Atlantis, came back, told Plato. That's what Graham believes, or that's what Graham found out. But obviously, Graham didn't read the Emerald Tablets, which I did. Comes from Egypt, but if you read the Emerald Tablets, it's about a person talking about Atlantis. He's like literally go read it. He is a citizen of Atlantis, and he's just talking about how he lived in Atlantis. And I was like, reading, I'm like, did nobody read this? Like, what? Like, he's giving straight evidence for Atlantis. He's calling Atlantis. He's saying what they did. He said that there is which now I'm thinking there are portals into different dimensions or different planets. So what he's saying is like literally Stargate. So he says in that book, Emerald Tablets, that there are these two pillars and you walk through them and enter into the world of the dead. So I'm like, that sounds like a portal, bro.
Yeah.
So what if it's not actually the world of the dead? Maybe he meant like the old world. Maybe the translation's off.
Right.
Or just not like, the world of the dead.
Or just like maybe like a different kind of planet that's like dead. A dead planet, right?
Oh, true. And that's why they came to Earth. Dude, okay. Oh my god. So many theories. There's another theory I saw before that Mars, because Mars used to look like Earth, right?
Potentially, yeah. That's what they say.
Theoretically. No, they found water on Mars recently.
Sure, but not recently, but like the ice caps are
years,
water, right? But yeah.
So, if there were water, then there must have been a time when. No, actually, no. This was a scientific thing I saw with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He showed that Mars used to look like Earth, but then it just dried up over time. They don't know why it dried up. Maybe it's just too far from the sun, something like that. Their atmosphere got too thin. So we know that's true, that Mars used to look like Earth, because it's pretty close in terms of distance. It's in the Goldilocks zone. We're more so. That's why we haven't died yet, but like Mars, we might be, because Earth also used to look like Mars.
I think they're, I believe the core solidified, so the atmosphere is not able to hold itself anymore.
Okay, cool. So there's the answer. But Earth also used to look like Mars. If you look at the origins of Earth, it was like a fiery fireball.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you look at the way time moves, now all of a sudden we have freaking, I'm being told that it's long. There you go. Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, we are going a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I know. All right. It's just so hype, bro. It's so hype. Okay, wait. All right, last thing. Okay, so we know that Earth used to be a fireball. But if you looked at Earth at that time, you'd be like, oh, it's inhospitable. Mm-hmm. But billions of years later, look, we have cities.
Right.
So we knew that Mars used to look like Earth at one point in time. So what they think, this is an alien theory, is that when Mars was going under, they created a teleportation system that jumped everyone to Earth.
Right.
And those people were the lizard people who are now running our civilization.
Yeah.
ridiculous. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying like all these theories. Now we just have to look at the underlying theory that's like unifying them. Just like spirituality, it's like all spirituality is literally looking for the same answer. Yeah. Just like history. Okay, that's all. Till next week. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace, y'all.
Oh, final thoughts?
Oh, final thoughts.
You have a final thought?
They're amongst us. They're amongst us.
I think so too. I really think so too. Like, not even a joke. It's like they're here.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're just catching up.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, take it easy, Vish. Peace. All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.